The following video was brought to you by Mouse Pounder. Mouse Pounder recommends the YouTube channel Narrated. And I have to say, after looking it out, he does some great stuff. I was a very big fan of his Deep Space Nine video. You can check out his channel at the URL below. This video is also brought to you by viewers like you. Thank you. Well, we now have two movies that are R-rated, starring less than perfectly sane characters that have a strong tendency to narrate their own stories. It's Deadpool vs. Harley Quinn. I mean Birds of Prey. Both these movies are unique in that they are superhero movies where we actually follow the hero as they navigate us through their story. Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool is perhaps the most perfect casting I could imagine. I've never been a particular fan of Reynolds. He essentially plays one character in most of his movies. The know-it-all that's always so confident in himself and also seems to be more entertaining to himself than to the audience.
But why?
Well, take that persona and make it about twice as strong, and you've got Deadpool.
She's like Robin to my Batman, except she's old and black and blind. And I think she's in love with me.
I cannot think of a role better suited for an actor. A strong argument can be made for Reynolds being the best casting for a superhero ever. And no, I did not forget about Downey Jr. or Jackman. Both of those changed the hero to fit their persona. Jackman changed Wolverine a lot from the comic book original, and Downey Jr. captured much of the essence of the comic book Iron Man, but amped up the snarkiness quite a bit.
I'll be throwing one of these in with every purchase of 500 million or more. It's a piece.
Reynolds took the comic book Deadpool and brought him onto the big screen, possibly the purest comic page to big screen transition ever.
I'm about to do to you what Limp Bizkit did to music in the late 90s.
Birds of Prey stars Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. She stars despite the fact that she is not part of the Birds of Prey.
Oh, picky, picky, picky.
Let's just go straight to Exhibit F.
But that's a topic for another category. Robbie is another example of a great casting choice. She captures much the same spirit and insanity of Harley Quinn and once again shows how she was one of the highlights of Suicide Squad. There is more to this category than just acting though. These are characters with arcs. Harley Quinn must learn to break away from the Joker and stand on her own. Deadpool has to learn to accept himself. While both characters have clear distinctive arcs, Harley's isn't as strong as it could have been since Black Mask represents the figure holding her back and it's clear the Joker is the main figure she must overcome. Deadpool doesn't have this issue. He's going up against the man who deformed him, and it gives him a stronger arc. This sadly isn't much of a contest. Robbie is a fantastically skilled actress who does an amazing job as Quinn. Frankly, Reynolds isn't nearly as skilled an actor, but he is uniquely and perfectly cast as Deadpool. I cannot think of a character more perfect for an actor's chops. This is a point for Deadpool.
Upside of being blind, I've never seen you in Crocs.
You mean my big rubber masturbating shoes?
Yep.
Birds of Prey has Ewan McGregor as Black Mask, a villain that likes to peel off faces but also has a distaste for bodily fluids.
Is that a snot bubble? Ew, gross. Oh, I've changed my mind. Peel it off.
He is actually rather bizarre. He functions as a mildly more sane Joker in this movie, which makes sense. He serves as the Joker as being the figure Harley must overcome to achieve her freedom. I do genuinely think this movie would have been so much stronger with the Joker as the villain, forcing Harley to come face to face with the man who has controlled her and manipulated her for years. However, since Margot Robbie refused to work with Jared Leto again, we end up with milder Joker. The good news is, McGregor does a damn good job giving us this bizarre crime figure.
Take your dress off. Get up there and fucking cut it off her. Do it now!
He is memorable to say the least, which is sadly more than I can say for Ed Skrein as Ajax, aka Francis. It honestly took me a moment when putting this together to remember who the main villain was. Not to throw any shade at Skrein, who does a fine job in a role made for a very specific purpose that functions imperfectly. It just doesn't have much of an impact.
as I scorch my nerve endings so I no longer feel pain. And in fact, I no longer feel anything.
So what we end up with is two characters that serve vital roles in their respective movies. One is very focused, written for a specific purpose and used only for that purpose. One is written as a character with his own motivations that happen to run contrary to the protagonist. When you break it down, it's not a real contest. While Screen does a good job, he's no McGregor. The only real advantages Ajax has is that his role is more streamlined, and his death is far better executed.
The way the world sees us. The way we...
Black Mask has a terrible death in Birds of Prey. It just suddenly happens and he's dead.
I took your ring. My ring?
Neither is perfect, but there is a clear winner here. The point has to go to Birds of Prey.
Go show those little bitches you don't mess with Roman Sionis!
The storytelling for both these movies uses a very similar device, having the main character narrate the story. Deadpool by far embraces this element the most, by not only having him address the camera, but also having him address the audience and even reference other movies in the Fox X-Men canon.
Let us go talk to the professor.
McAvoy or Stewart? These timelines are so confusing.
It is unambiguously clear that Deadpool knows he's in a movie. It's by far the most engaging part of the film. As for the story, it's a fairly standard revenge yarn. Bad man makes Wade look ugly, so Wade looks to make bad man fix bad thing. There are some moral lessons here, the most obvious being don't judge a book by its cover, and that you should accept yourself for who you are and not who you want to be. These are all strong themes, but let's not kid ourselves. The highlight is a whole character that knows he's in a movie angle to the point where he's breaking the fourth wall with delight.
Fourth wall break inside a fourth wall break. That's like 16 walls.
Birds of Prey isn't nearly as obvious with its device. Sure, she narrates the story, even elements that she should know nothing about. Here's a real issue. Deadpool essentially has two timelines that jumps between. There's the timeline where we begin, where he's Deadpool going after Francis's thugs, and there's the past timeline where he's Wade, and it tells the story of him becoming Deadpool. The two timelines are followed linearly, simply bouncing between the two. Here's where it gets weird. Birds of Prey literally just has one timeline that it jumps all over within, having Harley rewind and fast forward the story wherever.
Where can I find Cassandra Cain? Hold up. I'm telling this all wrong. Let's rewind.
An argument can be made that this provides an accurate representation of Harley's scattered mind. But accurate or not, it does frequently provide some moments where the story will suddenly halt to jump to a different point in the story or for a weird hallucination from Harley. Story-wise, it's about women breaking away from destructive relationships. You get Harley breaking away from the Joker, Montoya breaking away from her job and her sexist co-workers, Black Canary breaking away from Black Mask. Huntress really gets the short end of the stick here. She is in her revenge story and that's about it. Which brings us to an interesting fact about this movie. The title is just wrong. It's called Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. From a title like that, it implies the movie is about the Birds of Prey with Harley Quinn. But it's not. This movie is totally about Harley Quinn. When I saw the ads, I assumed they were just changing up the membership of the group.
I wanted a fresh start. But it turns out I wasn't the only dame in Gotham looking for emancipation.
Traditionally, the Birds of Prey are Batgirl or Oracle, FYI, same person, Huntress, and Black Canary. And I assumed they were just making the Birds of Prey Huntress, Black Canary, and Harley Quinn in the DCEU. But they are not. The Birds of Prey are only formed at the end, and they are Montoya, Huntress, and Black Canary. Harley Quinn is not a member at all. Yet Harley Quinn is the star of this movie. She is also more popular as a solo character than Birds of Prey are as a group. The advertising sold this movie correctly. The title failed it. This movie should definitely be called Harley Quinn and the Fantabulous Origins of the One and Only Birds of Prey. That way, it's honest, and it can maintain the silly overlong title aspect they were clearly going for. I think thematically, Birds of Prey has a lot more going for it as a movie, with all the major characters largely going through similar issues. The storytelling lets it down. It's storytelling where Deadpool excels. Birds of Prey feels jumpy and out of order, frequently jarring you out of the experience of the movie. Deadpool flows effortlessly, going from joke to joke. This is a point for Deadpool.
Wham.
No. Wham!
In Birds of Prey, we have Rosie Perez as Renee Montoya, Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Huntress, Journey Smollett as Black Canary, and Ella Jo Bosco as Cassandra Cain. It's weird having the entirety of the characters in the main title of the movie in the supporting camp, but I've already talked about the title mishap. Let's start with the weak elements. Huntress has plenty of backstory and no real arc, and barely any screen time. Do supporting characters need arcs? Absolutely not. Heck, given the proper script, a main character doesn't need an arc. However, Huntress is the odd member out, as she is the only one in the core team of the Birds of Prey that has essentially no real change to their character. She starts as a vigilante and ends up as part of a vigilante team. So at best, she changes from working alone to working on a team. Cassandra Cain has no real development to speak of either. She eats the diamond that everyone needs to return to Black Mask. That's really about it. Frankly, she's really just an annoying kid. Not exactly a strong point. But strong points this category does have. Mainly with Black Canary and Montoya. One's a cop, the other a bodyguard for the Black Mask. Montoya is good at her job, but no one recognizes her work, and many take credit for her accomplishments. Black Canary works for Black Mask in various jobs, and while she is appreciated, she is hardly thrilled to be working for a crime lord. They are both being controlled and must break away from their current work to find themselves, which they both do through this movie. Black Canary literally finds her voice. It's a theme that syncs up well with Harley's. Deadpool has Marina Baccarin as Vanessa, Karan Sohan as Dopinder, TJ Miller as Weasel, Leslie Uggams as Blind Al, Stephen Kopechek as Colossus, and Brianna Hillebrand as Negasonic Teenage Warhead. These are all fun characters, but the strength of most of them is how they all interact with Deadpool. Vanessa is the most prominent as Wade's girlfriend, who Wade has to learn to face after he gets disfigured. Weasel is just a goofball friend. Colossus is the straight man who's there to represent your more traditional hero juxtaposed to Deadpool's anti-hero. Negasonic is a millennial who reacts to Deadpool's Generation X attitude.
I mean, that's why I brought her? Oh no, finish your tweet. That's fine. Just give us a second. Yeah. There you go, hashtag it.
Blind Al is just an old blind coke addict who is Deadpool's roommate and is just hilarious.
Salsa water and lemon for blood. Or wear red. Dumbass.
Strangely enough, the only one with anything resembling an arc is Dopinder, who follows much of Deadpool's advice to criminal results.
Who? My romantic rival, Bandhu. He's tied up in the trunk. I'm doing, as you said, DP. I plan to gut him like a tandoori fish, then dump his carcass on Geeta's doorstep.
This is where it gets tricky. The weak characters in the Birds of Prey supporting cast are much weaker than any character in the Deadpool supporting cast. However, the strong characters in Birds of Prey outshine the supporting cast in Deadpool. This is super close, but has to go to Birds of Prey by a hair. Montoya and Black Canary have too much going for them.
We gotta clean the city from the inside out.
Does she always talk like the cop in a bad 80s movie, or is that just
Fuck
me?
you and fuck you.
What?
Like so many times before, both movies have solid sound design, leaving this category up to the soundtrack to decide. Here's where it gets interesting because both these movies have great soundtracks. Deadpool makes generous use of licensed music and has an original score by Junkie XL. Birds of Prey has an original score by Daniel Pemberton. I have to admit, I didn't give Pemberton enough credit for his work on Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. That score has grown on me so much and only grows stronger with every listen.
That was crazy.
Honestly, the Birds of Prey score is just as strong. It's in a very different style, yet it fits the movie so well. Spider-Verse's score had a strong electronic influence, while Birds of Prey's score has a strong gothic punk influence. As a fan of Junkie XL, his work on Deadpool was hardly some of his best. Not bad by any means, but the licensed music seals the show in that movie.
X gon' deliver to you. Knock, knock, open up the door, it's real. With the non-stop pop out from stainless steel. Go hard, get...
And while both movies use licensed music effectively, Deadpool is really much better with it, largely using songs that contrast what we are seeing, pitting action scenes to songs like Angel in the Morning and You're the Inspiration. Birds of Prey most effective songs are a cover of Hit Me With Your Best Shot and Heart's Barracuda. Both awesome, yet not as memorable as Deadpool's best moments. So to ask which has the best soundtrack, we have to ask what is more important, Birds of Prey's score versus Deadpool's licensed music. So which of these two is stronger? Honestly, it has to go to a score that is purposely made for the movie. It's another point for Birds of Prey.
Okay.
This is a trickier one. I would argue that both movies have good visuals, but nothing extraordinary. Birds of Prey has a very colorful police station assault, while Deadpool uses all its creative shots for jokes, like the crotch close-up.
Whoops, you weren't meant to see that.
Birds of Prey also has fun with the writing on the screen shtick, while Deadpool has a lot of fun with its credits. There's no real standouts visually that put either of these movies over top the other one, except one. Costume-wise, Birds of Prey really doesn't even seem to try. For the most part, the characters just wear pedestrian clothes except for Huntress, who has the most unremarkable costume ever. On the other hand, Deadpool has one of the best superhero costume adaptations ever. Plus, we actually get a Colossus that looks like his comic book counterpart. Sure, it's only one aspect, but when every other aspect is tied up, something has to break the camel's back. And this helps give Deadpool the point.
Maximum effort.
The final category is perhaps the biggest slam dunk of the comparison. Which movie was what it wanted to be? Both were R-rated superhero comedies and in many ways took the piss out of the genre.
Woo! Superhero landing! Yeah, that's really hard on your knees.
One absolutely nailed it, while the other was just entertaining and had its moments. Not to harp, but again we come to the titles. Deadpool is about Deadpool. Hardly a creative title, in fact it's a downright obvious one, but it's a title that clearly defines the movie. It's got a great lead in a title role, a clearly defined origin story for him, and a great costume as icing on the cake. It is so focused on the hero that the villain and supporting characters' only real memorable moments are exchanges with the title hero. Now we look at Birds of Prey, which is about Harley Quinn. Going into it, I simply thought Harley would be a member of the Birds of Prey here. But no, Montoya and Black Canary do alright. Huntress is borderline ignored for most of the movie, but all are overshadowed by Harley Quinn, and if they want to make a Harley Quinn movie, they should do that. Instead, the movie seems to be trying to balance a Harley Quinn story with a Birds of Prey origin story, and some themes do line up, but overall, it just feels messy. The title clearly shows they weren't sure what movie they were making, and the movie suffers for that. It is honestly a miracle it's as good as it is. Unless you can't tell, this is a point for Deadpool.
Tell me where your fucking boss is, or you're gonna die! In 5 minutes!
Something unexpected happened when watching the movies while preparing for this video. I found my opinion of Birds of Prey going up. My opinion on Deadpool is completely unchanged. I loved it when I first saw it and I still love it. But Birds of Prey has a lot of good ideas that have moments where they are well executed and some really solid performances. The script needed one more rewrite to really tighten up a lot of the loose ends. They were really close to a great movie here and just ended up with a good one. Oh, in case I forgot to mention this, it needed a new title too.
Hey, come on.
What? I saw it move.
They think order and chaos are somehow opposites and try to control what won't be.
Pain don't hurt.